Hello again. So I'll be solving in this recording an interesting exercise related to calculating or finding the longest sequence or subsequence of a consecutive, but here we have a different variation of this exercise. So we have already solved similar exercises in the course of the first year, so you can find the link for these exercises in the description below. So we need to write a program. It should read a sequence of integers. So here we have bits, so n bits. So in C they are either 0 or 1, and we need to find the first longest alternate sequence of bits. So we need the first alternate sequence of bits. Then we need to print the sequence number, the length, and the starting position. So we have this example. So we have 18 bits. So we need to read a bit each at a time. So we started from 0. And then we have 1 0 1 0. So this is the first sequence. So it's sequence 1 because this is the first sequence, and it contains 5 elements. And then since we have two bits which are equal, so I started a new sequence. So this one is of length 2, and this one is of length 9, obviously, and this is of length 2. So obviously, so we have already worked with sequences. So we'll start by reading the first bit, and this bit will set the first sequence. And whenever I read the second bit, so if it's different than the first one, obviously I still in the same sequence. And whenever I have the same bit, it means I started a new sequence. So obviously I need to check whether this sequence is the maximum one. So obviously I should have two variables. So one for the current that calculates the current sum of the numbers of the sequence, so the count of the sequence, and the maximum one. So at each time I switch, so I find a new or switch to a new sequence, I should check if this one is the maximum, and then I need to display these. So at first I will work it incrementally. So we will read the bits, and then we will see when we will switch to a new sequence. So that because we need to enumerate the sequence, so obviously we need to have a counter for these sequences, also a number, and we need to know when it starts, so the number of the element that I have read. So for example, here is 9 elements, and this is the third sequence. So we have multiple stuff to take into account. So let's start first by specifying what we want to read. So obviously we have, so the input is about 3 numbers. So it's not 3 numbers. So we have, this is the output. So the input is a number specifying the number of elements that I need to read, and then I have the numbers. So obviously I need to read n. So I have here n. So let's call it n. And obviously I need to read the number of element, so %d address of n. So I can place scanf inside a do while, but let's suppose that n is always positive. So we can place it in do while and make sure that n is always positive. And then I need to read the bits. So for that, since I need to compare two consecutive bits, I'll be using two variables. One is called old and one new. So I'll just change a bit from the variables that I am using. Since I cannot use new, since it's a keyword, I will use bit old, so it's an old bit, and a bit new. So just to change from what we have taken. So obviously I will read the old one first. So this is the first one, and it should be a bit. So I will do here a do while just to show it. So I'll do a scanf %d address of bit old, and obviously this one I will repeat as long as bit old is different than 0 and is different than 1. So as long as this number is different than 0, I should repeat, and if it's different than 1, I should repeat. So I cannot just write or, because if I, for example, enter 20, so 20 bit old is different than 0, so it will pass. So 20 because it's different than 0, and they have or, so one of the two operator, two sides should be true. So obviously I cannot write or, and I should write and. So I have read the first bit. So obviously the first bit will set the sequence. So this is the first sequence, the sequence size, and the current position. So I can have 3 variables. So I will start with let's call it current size. So the names of the variable are a bit long. Current position, because I need those 3 values, and current sequence. So obviously I should initialize all these. So the current size, so for now I have just one element, so it's equal to 1. Current position, we are starting from the first position because they are telling us that the first bit is at the first position. And obviously again the current sequence, this is the first sequence, and it's equal to 1. So then I need to loop over the remaining 17 elements and either increment the size of the sequence if I'm alternating between bits, and whenever I find the same bits, I need to check if the current sequence is the maximum sequence. So obviously I need a loop, an integer. So I should loop not from 1 but 2 because I already taken into account the first element, I++, and then I need to check. So if whenever I'm reading, so I need to read the new bit and then check it with the old bit. So obviously I need to have the same stuff here. I need to be sure that I'm reading a bit, so it's a value of an integer between 0 and 1. So I have read the new bit and then I need to check. So if the new bit is different than the old bit, it means it's different because I'm sure here that both new bit and old bit, they are equal either to 0 or 1. So if they are different, it means that I'm still in the same sequence. So if bit old is different than bit new, it means I'm in the same sequence, so I can increment the current size of the sequence. Otherwise, it means that so both terms are equal, so it means I need to start a new sequence. Obviously, I should save the current position, I should increment the current sequence, and the size would be equal to 1. So I will copy these and place them there. So we've already covered that. So here, so after doing what at the end, so I need to start the size is equal to 1. The current position is equal to I because I'm looping over this, and the sequence, obviously, it should be incremented. However, as I have said, I need to check before starting a new sequence whether the previous sequence is the maximum. So obviously I need to have 3 other variables which correspond to the maximum values, so those that I need to print. So let's call it maximum size, maximum position, and maximum sequence. So obviously I should check the maximum size, so and I should initialize those values. So I can initialize the maximum size to 0 because obviously there is no sequence of size 0. So you can initialize it to int min, it's okay, but 0 also is acceptable. But any positive integer, it won't work. So if the current size is greater, strictly greater, so if I write equal to max size, it means I'm getting the last longest consecutive sequence. So if I have, for example, here more digits, more bits, and I have the same sequence which of length 9, so I will get the last one. So if I place strictly greater, it means I won't modify the following variables in the if, even if it's equal. So I need really a strictly current size, so a more bigger size in order to modify these. So I will copy these because I need to modify them. So in maximum size, it would be the current size because this is the current maximum. The maximum position would be equal to the current position because this is where we started the sequence, and maximum sequence would be equal to the current sequence. So we have, let me repeat quickly. So we have read the first bit, and then, so the first bit will set the first sequence, so the number is equal to 1, the position is equal to 1, and its size is equal to 1. And then I have looped over the other bits, so I have read bit new, and at each time I have compared bit new with bit old. So if they are different, it means we are still in the same sequence, so I just need to increment the current size. Otherwise, it means we have the same value of bit old and bit new, so I need to update the maximum if the current size is greater than the maximum, the already found maximum, and then I will reset those values. So I just need to remember that I'm always reading bit new, however bit old, it should be modified after each iteration, so I don't forget to write bit old equal bit new. So we've already covered also the trick here is that the last sequence, it could be that the last sequence is the biggest sequence. So whenever I'm looping, I will stay here. So maybe this is the maximum sequence, so and I will not be able to check these. So obviously whenever I finish the sequence, I should recheck whether the current sequence, it means the last sequence, is the maximum sequence. And obviously if it's the maximum, I should update the values. So once done, I just need to print those values. So they are asking us to print 3 integers. So let me see the order. So we need to print the longest alternate sequence, so the number, so the sequence number, the sequence size, and the sequence position. So I should write the maximum sequence, and then the maximum size, and then the maximum position. And let us pre-check first to see if we have some syntax error. So pre-check, so time limit exceeded because there's a do while. So let's check. And yes, so it passed. So we have all these examples, even if we have one sequence of, so we have here 2 sequences, because we have, this is the number, and we have just sequence of 1. So obviously we have the first sequence of length 1, and it contains 1 element, and this is the same. So we have here just once, so there are no alternating sequence. So the first sequence is the longest sequence. So I will just place equal here, just to say that in this example I will get the last sequence as the maximum sequence. So if I say if current size is greater or equal, so I allow sequences to be equal. So obviously here I will get the last sequence. So it would remain 1 1 because the sequence size is equal to 1. However, this as you can see, so it's 17. So this is the 17th sequence because we have 18. So this is the 17th sequence, and it starts at 17, and its size is equal to 1. So this is it. So if you have any questions, do not hesitate to write to me, and I will answer you back. And again, do not forget to subscribe to my channel and to hit the bell icon to receive all the notification. And again, thanks for watching.